So now let's move on to Newcastle. We're playing them Tuesday night in the Carabao Cup. Where does this game rank in priority?
It's one of the biggest games of the month, I think. Against a team that Arsenal sort of have this brewing rivalry with. I think back to that a couple of years ago at the Emirates where it was the ball in play was something like the lowest in Premier League. It was 50 minutes in play or something. And there was the needle between Howe and Tyndall and Arteta. And that was kind of where it started. And it's grown since then. Obviously, the goal last season at St James's. I think Arsenal, when they played them at the Emirates, kind of had a bit of intent of, wanting to put a marker down. And against a Newcastle team who looked really, really good, I must admit, last few weeks, absolutely flying. So, yeah, given what we spoke about, trophies and the need to win something, I think it's up there with sort of one of the biggest games this month.
There's a player on the pitch for Tuesday night, tall, forward, can play left, can play through the middle, can dribble, score goals.
I thought he was going Joe Linton there.
There's been times where I wouldn't have minded Joe Linton either at that left 8. But no, I mean, Isak's one where, as Arsenal fans, I think there's something about the idea of him in a number 14 shirt that certainly appeals, but we have to be alert to his threat because I personally, I think he's on form, maybe the best striker in the league at the moment. Such a good player. So such an all-round threat as well. I think he's added a lot to his game in the last 6 months as well, the way he brings other players into the game. We've got to be alert to that. And I think we've also got to be alert to the fact that certainly at St James's Park, Eddie Howe has been very, very, very good at congesting the middle of the pitch. He almost plays 4 central midfielders and allows Gordon and Isak to be the forwards. And we really struggled to play through them. We embarrassed them at the Emirates. I think it was February last year, 4-1. We really embarrassed them, but they were really injury hit for that game. They didn't have the right players on the pitch. They're really up for this. They want a trophy, and it's been really bad at Newcastle until the last 6 weeks. They're going to want to come and. I think for them, beating Arsenal at the Emirates is a real scalp, and that would set their season off if they could do that. So we have to be alert to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, they don't win at Emirates Stadium very often. I think they've lost 12 of the last 13 games at our place. So yeah, no, I agree. It's a huge, huge game. The midfield is massive. Newcastle's midfield is superb. It's got great balance, and they are good at disrupting us. So we've got to find a way. We've got to find a solution to that to win the tie. I think we will. I think we are a better team than Newcastle, but it's going to be hard work. We're going to have to be really physically strong, I think, mentally strong, and ride out some tough moments.
Look, Newcastle won a trophy, but we won a trophy. So joining us now from Truth Faith is Yousef Hatem. Hey, Yousef, welcome to Inside Gooners.
Hello.
Hello. So a couple of big games coming up for Newcastle against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup semi-finals. How do you feel going into them?
Well, when the draw was made, Arsenal was the one I wanted to avoid. Since that, we've played 3 times and scored 9 without reply. So I feel more confident now than I did when the draw was made.
Okay. So the confidence is there. So what's the target for the first leg at the Emirates then?
The target is to still be in the tie in the second leg. I mean, that sounds like an obvious thing to say, but
no, not really.
I think Newcastle at St James's Park. I think we've won the last 3 on the spin against Arsenal at our place. We have a terrible record at the Emirates. I think the last time we won there was Andy Carroll got a winner in a 1-0 in 2010. That's what I remember. I don't know if we've won since then at the Emirates. So long as we're within a goal of you coming back to our place, I think we'll do you. I think Arsenal would need to win by at least 2 clear goals on Tuesday night to be the favourites going into the second leg at our place. So I'm confident for the tie overall, but I'm not massively confident about Tuesday itself.
Well, if he's going to put it one way, he's going to put it that they're going to do us. So, Adrian, I have a question for you then. So Arsenal's recent record away at Newcastle has been poor, but at home we're normally pretty good against them. Should Arsenal be targeting a quick start in this tie then?
Oh, definitely. You want a quick start in almost every game, don't you? You want to put the opposition on the back foot. You don't want to fall behind against Newcastle United. We found that to our cost, haven't we? At St James's Park, where they managed that game earlier on this season, very, very well indeed. So they can stifle Arsenal, and that will be their game plan for sure, to stay in the tie, as Yousef said. But yeah, if we can get off to one of those blistering starts, get ourselves a 2-goal cushion potentially, we can have a little bit of fun with it. And then they might have to come out and be a little bit more ambitious. And that might be when we get the opportunity to score more goals. I don't think they're going to be over-ambitious. I think they're going to try and be as defensive as possible in this game.
Okay. Well, what about the set pieces? What do we think about the set pieces going into this game?
Always feel good about the set pieces, to be honest. It's been a long time since I haven't felt good about it. But Newcastle are a physical team. They're a big team, and if it's Pope in goal, that's one thing he is good at, is commanding his box. It'll be a game for the Mikel Marinos. It'll be a game for our big lads. It's a game to compete and to win duels, as Arteta thinks every game is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have to be on it with that stuff, because the fella there, I know he feels confident now. I bet he felt a lot less confident when Bukayo Saka's hamstring was attached to his leg. That's ultimately it. So it's any way that we can gain an advantage without Bukayo, we have to have it.
Can I ask Yousef a question? Yousef, in terms of Isak, he's the obvious danger man as far as we're concerned. But who else? We know about his form. His form is ridiculous at the moment. Who else at Newcastle United is in probably the best form of the season so far?
I think you've got to be looking, and you've talked about the midfield, but the one in particular to watch out for is Sandro Tonali. So I was at that game at the Emirates that you talked about before. It was actually first Tuesday in January, so it was basically exactly 2 years ago. That 0-0 where we essentially, well, there are various post-mortem sheds with good news, but 2:45 in the family show. But there were ways we got to that 0-0 that night. We're a different proposition now. I think even from the team that you faced at St James's in November, the team that you faced at St James's last year, Tonali has made us a much better side with the ball. Things go through him. He's a deep-lying central midfielder. We're a far better team in possession now, trying to dictate the actual pace of the game in midfield. I think we will find that difficult to do at the Emirates. We will go into that game second favourites. I accept that. But we're a much better side with the ball now, with Tonali at the base of that midfield. And he's definitely one to look out for, because I think with Joelinton, you know what you're going to get. With Bruno Guimaraes, you know what his qualities are. Tonali is the one that really, in December, frankly, has come to the fore. Isak is the main man. He is absolutely world class. But if there's another player that I think really is one to watch on Tuesday, it's Tonali, who I think most of the league are finding out something new about him, because he wasn't really a big part of our side last year. He had his suspension due to gambling infractions in Italy, and he wasn't even in our squad. He wasn't even part of Newcastle the year before when we qualified for the Champions League. So he's the new one, although it's a side as a unit that are in form, and I don't really expect, anybody to be an easy touch.
Yousef, back to Arsenal's set pieces. Do they worry you then?
I only watch Newcastle, so.
Okay.
No, joking aside, they do. I mean, it's to have that sort of that ability, to have that in your locker is always going to be something you want to have, and that's why when I talk about our form in recent weeks, the fact that we've been defensively sound as well. We haven't conceded in the last 5 games, apart from a late consolation that Brentford got in the quarter-final at our place. So it's not just been good going forward, it's been good at the back as well. So I think we're quite well equipped to deal with Arsenal's set pieces. I know a lot of visiting teams have said that so far this season, and they've been found wanting. But, Burn is 10'8", and we've got Isak, who actually gets back and defends set pieces as well. We can be quite a big side. We are quite a physical side. We haven't lost that as we've become better with the ball. So I do think we're well set up to deal with Arsenal's threat from set pieces, but it's an obvious concern, and it's obviously something that I'm sure Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall and the team are working on quite a lot in training, because anybody who's watched Arsenal this year will know what a threat you are from those situations.
Thank you very much. I'll take that compliment. What a threat we are. Simon, I've got a question for you then. So how much do you expect Arsenal to rotate on the day? It's Man United on the weekend after in the FA Cup, and then obviously Newcastle play League Two Bromley.
Yeah, I mean, he has rotated in the Carabao Cup, hasn't he? But if you were looking at it that week, I mean, I would argue Man United is the easier game, and I'd be rotating in that. You know, I'd be wanting to go stronger against Newcastle. I really think in terms of team selection, that is where I would be putting my strongest team and going all out for. The debate will be, I think, do you play someone like Waneri, who's been brilliant in the Carabao Cup all season? But I think for this game, I think Newcastle are going to come full strength. You know, we talk about need to win a trophy. I mean, they really want to win a trophy.
I was at the Forest game in round 2, and Newcastle went full strength then. You know, they've targeted this cup, no doubt about that. So we know that they're going to treat this really seriously. We should absolutely go full strength, in my opinion. United is the easier game. It sounds weird to say it, but it is. It's not even tight, is it? It's a considerably easier game.
Form-wise, you know, and you mentioned about Waneri having a good time in the Carabao. He's had a good time in the Premier League this season. This is the thing. Those players,
he's just good.
He's just good. The Miles Lewis-Skellies. That's not a Carabao Cup player who deserves to keep his place in the tournament. That's a good player who's played Champions League and Premier League. The squad's thin enough now that I think we can talk about rotating the team. That was a quote-unquote rotated team last night against Brentford. That was no Declan Rice, that was no Kai Havertz. It was still a really strong team. And I think that's what our team's going to look like for the rest of this month, really. I think there's always going to be a good player sat on the bench, because ultimately we're going to have to nurse these players through 3-game weeks for the rest of this month when we don't have much of a squad. But I think we know Arteta. We know how he feels about being competitive in every game. I don't think we're going to see a really quote-unquote rotated side for any game this year.
So Yousef, back to you. I want to ask what your prediction is for Tuesday.
I think we'll lose by a goal. I think we'll beat you by 1 at our place, and we'll do you on pens and get to the final.
I mean, I only said Tuesday, but thanks. Yeah, go on.
Ask Yousef the question. Yousef, how much do you think Isak moves to Arsenal for in the summer then?
Over my dead body.
Expensive then.
Well, thank you so much, Yousef, for joining us. And we'll catch up again ahead of the second leg. I want to say good luck, but you know what? I'm not. So. Okay, so then, guys, interestingly, while we're talking about this, the Carabao Cup, they're going to be trialling in-game VAR announcements for the semi-finals. However, only the final decision will be announced in the stadium and not the entire VAR process. It just sounds so confusing. Jacob, what are your thoughts on that?
Utter woke nonsense. I think that in terms of being in the ground, you don't need someone to announce the final decision, because you know the financial decision because it's clearly visible on a very expensive billboard. The problem in the ground is that you don't know what's happening while it's happening. What would be helpful is if you could hear some kind of deliberation, maybe from a commentator or from an in-ground sort of announcement team about what's going on. The issue with this, it doesn't solve that problem at all. And what it does do, I think, is it leans further and further towards what Howard Webb seems to want, which is these referees becoming minor celebrities who are microphoned throughout games, who'll do strictly when it gets to winter time. And I don't think it helps what the issue is, which is at the moment, there aren't enough good referees in the Premier League. The reason for that is there's not enough people wanting to become referees, and I think ultimately there's quite a toxic attitude towards referees in Britain. There's not a wide enough pool of people learning how to do that job. And it's not going to help when referees are having to make those announcements. And what do you think happens when it's the referee themselves? Do you think the referees are looking forward to doing this?
No.
I hope they're not, because it's going to be awful. Because whichever way round it is, there's going to be a big bank of fans who aren't happy about it, who are going to boo that decision. And they're going to boo everything else the referee does for the rest of that game. And I don't see... it feels like a very Americanised idea of bringing more quote-unquote entertainment into the game. And it doesn't really help anything, when I think really, if like every team feels like this has been a really poor season for refereeing in the Premier League, I don't think further focus on it will help.
I've got this feeling just from that little monologue you had that you feel really passionate about that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just something about the energy in the studio.
It's not for me. It's not for me.
No, not a lot to add to that, really. I mean, I do agree. It's not. I don't see the upside, really. They're going to come out with generic wording, aren't they? They're just going to say, yes, it is a penalty because there was a trip on X player. I mean, I don't really see what the fuss is about, to be honest. I think that they've got other internal issues to deal with in terms of raising the standard of decision making in the first place, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch. I think that the officiating has been below par this season.
I think what you want is greater transparency, isn't it? And if you could see how the decision has got to, it might be a bit more palatable because I can kind of understand what you've seen there. But when you don't hear anything and they suddenly go, this is what we've come up with, I think that's when you get the issue. And this, as you say, it won't really solve it. You'll just be told, yeah, we're given a penalty.
I mean, the only way I think that it would really sort of please the in-stadium fans is if it's on the big screen, we're watching what they're watching on that screen, and we hear the dialogue between the referee and the VAR room. If we all get access to that, fine. I'm very happy with that because the paying customer isn't being kept in the dark. You know, and that would be. It wouldn't be entertaining, but at least it'd be informative.
I think it'd be entertaining.
I think it's so entertaining. Everyone crooking their necks, looking at the screens, matching up the lines.
I would love to listen to 60,000 fans at the Emirates, watch them forget to draw the lines in that Brentford game. There'd have been some entertainment there.
Yeah, this is true.
It would be entertaining, it would.